All right, we are official now. Thank you, everybody, for joining the High Adventure Roundtable for the Olympic District for July 27th, 2026. If we could, now that we're recording, if everybody in attendance could jot down in the chat your name, your unit that you're associated with, and also if you have a position in the district or council. So when Mariah does her attendance, that we can get that attendance where it needs to be. So introductions, I'm Justin Grimm. I'm the Assistant District Commissioner of Training for the Olympic District.
And I am Mariah. I am the Roundtable Commissioner for Olympic District. My camera is on. That's enough.
Well, it was not picking you. We are doing this from the comfort of not Olympic District. All right. Well, now she's blurry. I don't know.
I know.
We'll make it work. While Haley is getting her Class A's all together for our sweet flag ceremony.
I have 4 scouts here. They could have done it for you, Justin and Mariah, except for I don't think they would have fit behind my desk.
That's okay. Look at this. I have a scout too.
Oh, long time no see.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Please join me in the Scout Oath and Law. On my honor, I'll do my best
To do my duty, to guard my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
2. Wait,
I gotta do law.
a scout is
Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
2.
All right. Thank you, Haley, for assisting with that.
Can you have a couple more best bites?
We can go ahead and jump right in with Justin leading the safety moment.
Safety moment. Where are you? So our safety moment this month is going to be about wildfire safety. Is that showing up?
Yes.
Okay. So this is particularly important because we are in full wildfire season. Conditions are hot and dry. I know Chief Seattle Council just issued a warning because one of their camps is in a level 3 go now. I don't think there's anybody at the camp, but the fire is now like at the border of one of their camps. So sending good vibes to Chief Seattle. Thank you for everybody for putting your info in the chat. Like I mentioned earlier, please put your information in the chat so that we can record it for attendance purposes. So many people believe wildfires only matter in places with mountains and trees. But for anybody that lives in the South Sound, you can definitely see that any hayfield, any derelict, field with some grown over grass has the potential. I-5 corridor. There have been wildfires in all 50 states. All you need is fuel, flame, and oxygen. Anybody that knows the fire triangle. To help scouts effectively prepare for wildfire emergencies, it is essential to prioritize safety, learning and practicing emergency preparedness with your scouts. As leaders, we have an opportunity and responsibility to lead youth in learning about wildfires and what to do before, during, and after an event. So before wildfire, part of advancement, you should learn how to develop a family emergency plan. So if you have to evacuate your house, where's your staging areas, practicing actually getting out of your house, building an emergency kit so that you can grab it and go if you need to. Learning how to stop, drop, and roll. I'm pretty sure, at least for Cubs, that is a requirement for several of the adventures. As leaders, when we do our hazardous weather planning, doing assessments for conditions of fuels, if there's overhead fuels, if there's a risk of fire in the area, making sure that you have defensible space is a big one. As part of outdoor skills, you should learn how to plan a camp out by knowing where you're going and where the fire risk is. That helps also when you're trying to figure out your fire program, if you're going to be able to have open flame, or if you're going to need propane flame, or if you're going to just need a flashlight as your flame for your fire, your campfire. During a potential wildfire or nearby wildfire, make sure you're staying alert. If something happens and you're in an area that needs to be evacuated, follow instructions from your local emergency management division. Make sure you're putting safety first. After a wildfire, follow your safety basics, avoid hotspots, follow public guidelines, stay away, don't go into the red zone. Assist and clean up as needed, partner with local organizations, stay healthy. So as a wildland firefighter for several years, you had to be in good physical condition to be able to be on the fire line doing that type of work. Make sure you're hydrated, throwing out any questionable foods. That's interesting. I guess you don't want to be eating moldy stuff. Eat healthy, get enough sleep, and if needed, talk about your feelings. While you might not have to worry about wildfires where you are, as leaders, we need to remember that our youth may not stay in our area. So wherever they're going, traversing on adventures and trips, throughout the country, throughout the world, we are teaching skills that they're going to use and use practical application wherever they go. So keep that in mind when it comes to wildfire safety. It also keys in that we just have a brand new merit badge for our older Scouts BSA, and other programs for wildland fire management, I think is what they just rolled out at NatJam. So here's some QR codes. The American Red Cross Wildfire Safety Program, the plan, the Wildland Fire Management Test Lab Merit Badge. That's what I was talking about. So I believe that's out of the test lab now, and that's officially a merit badge. So that's how you can get to that site to learn about the requirements for that merit badge. And then Aaron on scouting, survival strategies to help you escape a forest fire. And these are all found on the Roundtable support page on scouting website. Any questions about wildland fire safety? Okay.
Okay, then we're going to go ahead and move into our membership moment. This one is regarding year-round recruitment. I know we are in the process of shifting back our renewals, but we are still pushing with a strong emphasis for both fall recruiting and year-round recruiting. We just did our kickoffs in Olympic District. But knowing that anytime you're visible in the community is a recruitment opportunity, as well as consistently having your scouts bring their friends to activities to increase our numbers and experiences. And it allows a lot more kids to participate over the summer. for our summer program stuff. Especially on the troop level that stays constant throughout the year. On the pack, getting kids entertained at the end of the year and bringing them through the summer achievement award as well. So we just want to make sure we're recruiting all of the time. And announcements.
Announcements.
Our first announcement is going to be the Pacific Harbors Endowment Patch is still out for grabs. With summer camp, our Fred's Closet schedule has been a little hinky, but we do have Fred's Closet open August 8th, the 22nd, September 5th, and September 19th from the 10 to 1 normal schedule. We will have our Olympic District Roundtable coming August 19th. This will be bi-monthly, so we won't be seeing anybody until September for high adventure stuff. Starting September 4th through the 29th, we will be at the Washington State Fair. So reminder to stop by and see the booth to show your support, as well as sign up to help run the recruitment booth. And then in September, we also have the Rainier Scout Night, September 11th to attend.
And that's the Tacoma Rainiers, the baseball
Yes.
team, and not
At Cheney Stadium.
in right near the scout shop.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet.
And then some activities we have going on. We still have the Pacific Harbors Trek series. And then we have an exciting recruitment workshop for Rainier District August 1st. If you are in Olympic District and you didn't get the opportunity to attend any of our workshops, please feel free to attend that one at the Scout Center in Tacoma. I did get stamp of approval for us to cross that over there. And then we are offering a short-term camp administrator training on August 8th for $75. I signed up for that. I don't entirely know what I'm doing with it, but I signed up.
You and me both, so we may be the only two there. That's dope. All right, cool.
We have an August 18th. We have a BB gun range master training that is being offered for free at the Scout Center.
It's free.
I signed up for that to renew mine.
I like free.
We have a shotgun instructor training class coming too.
That's not free.
It's $150.
Oh, okay.
And it's a 2-day course at the Cascade shooting facilities. You have to bring your own shotgun and ammo, I believe.
Boo.
And I heard a lot of people asking for IOLS. We have an IOLS on the calendar. August 28th through the 30th, we'll be doing IOLS at Camp Thunderbird for $45. And then the following weekend, September 5th, there's supposed to be a Baloo at Camp Thunderbird as well. So we're our training.
That is happening.
What's happening?
IOLS and Baloo. They are both happening. They are happening. Both of those I got told today. Both of those are happening for sure. There is unless we get hit by a meteor, those are gonna happen because of the situations we've had over the last couple of years, and we haven't had we didn't have IOLS last year, so it will be happening this year.
So if you're already trained, sign up to help, because that's why they get canceled. We don't have enough volunteers to help. So if you already know what you're doing, reach out and sign up. There's definite need.
I have 2 more announcements that I just got told about 10 minutes ago from Tyler on the phone, Mariah. The VOA is going to start having scheduled meetings they are going to start coming out a month ahead of time, along with the OA. They are, since this is high adventure, I'll talk about the VOA and the OA. Both of those meetings are going to start. We are going to start getting a heads up on when those meetings are for Phoenix chapter down here in Olympia. And so they will be getting added to the Olympic District website as soon as they get posted, but I was told today that we are now going to start to get those dates sooner than a week ahead of time. And
Woohoo!
something we're pushing for. So I know one of the things coming up is to try and get the VOA involved in this. I know you're trying to do that, Mariah and Justin. So that will be helpful with us being able to attend those meetings, because I know a lot of us leaders with short notice, we haven't been able to get to one of those.
Wonderful. Thank you for that update, Mark. Appreciate it.
Did he have two?
Was that everything that you had, bud?
Yes, there is another one, but I'll talk about it at the end.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna move into our hot topic of intentional transitions. One important thing that I like that this is a high adventure older youth program is that we can try to rope in the 18 to 21-year-olds that don't count towards too deep leadership to either keep them involved in the troops or to move them into a venturing crew to keep participation active. Making sure that there's opportunity for them to acclimate and get acquainted with anything new that they're doing, regardless of cub moving into the troop or troop kids moving into venturing, whatever it is. Engaging with the parents early, encouraging transitions from wherever they're going. That way they don't lose the scout spirit that they have. And having the older youth working with the younger youth, regardless of if it's venturing working with troop or troop working with pack, keeping them engaged and working closely to supplement knowledge and help with the scout journey. So, because the kids see the younger kid, the younger kids see the older kids and want to be them when they are older. There were so many kids out at camp this week that were like, I want to be a staffer when I get older, because of our young folk that are selling that now. We have a special guest presenter, Mark Bock. Mark Bock, sorry. With all information regarding all of the high adventure camps that we have available for our scouts. He has been to all of them and knows them mighty well. So if you want to take over, Mark, you are welcome.
Okay, so I will host disabled participant sharing. So you got to enable me to share if you want. So.
All right, you should be good to go.
Okay, what do we got now? What can you see? So I can either keep it in this mode or try to go to full screen mode and where I can't see any of the Zoom stuff. So it's up to everybody that's kind of here, whether this will work for you or whether to get to the slides or whether you want the full screen vision.
This looks good.
Okay. Okay, so here to talk about high adventure. I'll get to there we go. So I guess a couple of things about this is that one, as Mariah said, I'm Mark Bock. I'm with Troop 48 primarily. I'm the high adventure coordinator for Troop 48, and also trying to get off the ground our new girls troop and Troop 41. So, and as a high adventure coordinator, yes, I have been to all of the high adventure camps, and that's where I'm going to limit this to is there's a lot of high adventure that you can do around here, but what I'm specifically talking about is the national high adventure bases. So this is kind of what going to go over. There is these are the 4 national high adventure bases. We'll go over some of the trek options, kind of what each one that specializes in and what you can do there, because there's some variety and it really depends on what you want to do. Hit on that'll probably be the bulk of the discussion. Go over the participant requirements, age and things like that. A registration overview, because there's different timelines associated with each one of those. Budgetary suggestions. I've been the contingent leader on a number of these and kind of narrowed down what basically we can do it for, to get there, get through the trek and all that type of stuff. And then high adventure awards. There are some high adventure awards for going to the national high adventure bases. And then we'll end up with some questions. So I have it. My order was a little off. I'll start out with Philmont Scout Ranch, because that's probably what most people think of when they think of high adventure. Though I can actually say that they are not the oldest. Philmont Scout Ranch started doing treks in 1937, but more than a decade before that, Northern Tier actually started doing treks. So they were 1923. So most people think, oh, high adventure Philmont. I actually think high adventure Northern Tier, but that's to discussion. There are different types of. There are basically 2 brackets of what you can do at Philmont. The primary one is backpacking. They probably put last I had seen, they put up to 18,000 people through there in a summer, and most of them are backpacking. So you can go on their 7, 9, and 12-day treks. That's currently. And these are basically backpacking trips. And then they have actually what they call staff camps, which are program activities. So at the staff camps, you can do muzzle loading, and you can do cowboy action shooting and spar pole climbing and other logging type things. There's quite a variety of things you can do at the staff camps. And that's often what when we're going through trying to figure out how what the boys want to do, it's kind of finding a trek that actually matches all of the activities that they might want to do, or trying to prioritize those activities. So it's a combination. But I would also say that most people think, well, yeah, the staff camps, that's kind of it, but some of the backpacking and places you can go are just as beautiful and just as memorable. There's a Tooth of Time you can climb. There's Mount Baldy you can climb as part of your activities and things like that. So there's just a whole variety. So Philmont is, I didn't say it before, but it's in the northeastern New Mexico. So, and there is, I don't know how many thousands of acres that are actually on Philmont Scout Ranch, but they're also surrounded by national forest land that they can go into and things like that. So it is truly a once in a lifetime experience. The other type of event they have there is Cavalcade, which is a 8-day horseback trek. So they also have the program sites, so they actually visit a number of the same sites that the backpacking groups. There's some overlap there, but this is geared to. We'll talk a little bit more about the participant things, but in Philmont, there's different ways you can go. And Cavalcade is not always done as a troop or a crew or what have you. It's not always a contingent from a troop. So, but anyway, so Cavalcade is an option. Okay, so next we'll move on to Northern Tier, which their primary base is in Ely, Minnesota, which is in again kind of the northeastern part of the state. It's actually right up against the Canadian border, the Boundary Waters canoe areas or wilderness canoe areas right up against the border. But they also have a base in Antikokan, Ontario, and they run float plane trips out of there and a number of other trips. And most of that's on the Canadian side, obviously, and in Quantico National Park. So they also have several different types of adventures. So the most common, and I would say most people do this, is the summer and autumn Their autumn is actually August, so not necessarily your or mine August or autumn, but that's what they count as autumn. But the canoeing adventures are the by far and above the most popular. So they're out of Ely, Minnesota. There is, or their base, which is the primary northern tier base. They run 7 and 10 day adventures. These are majority of them are in the Boundary Waters, but you can actually go out of Ely and you can go into Quantico as well. But that takes some extra logistics work. So crew size in this one is 8 or less, which is because each crew, they run 3 boats. So you get a person that they call their interpreter, and he goes with you the entire trip. And so they make they 3-person canoes. So it behooves you, if you can't put 8 in, to try to get one where you're actually trying to fill out most, a number of canoes. The trek, we'll talk more about this in cost, but the treks are, they're a cost for the trek. And so if you only have 5 people and can only run 2 canoes, those 5 people are going to pay more money, obviously. So out of Anticoken, there are 8 and 10 day adventures. Most of these are in the Quantico, which is, again, across the border. It's the Canadian version of the Boundary Waters Wilderness Canoe Area. I would say that it is definitely more rural. The facilities and things like that, the trail maintenance and stuff like that is not nearly the same, which can make for a fantastic and wonderful adventure. It really depends on your scouts. Their crew size is 6 to 11 because they can run the canoes a little bit differently. So that's what they suggest. They also can do bigger crews, because if you get more than 8 and you have to actually start into a second crew, then you can get a sister crew when you're going at Ely, but then they're 2 different groups, essentially. In addition to the canoe trips during the wintertime, this also counts for the National High Adventure Awards and things like that, is OCPEC, which is, all of these are out of Ely, and they have Winter Adventure, Musher Camp, and Dog Sled, which is, it seemed like Musher Camp and the Dog Sled are kind of the same thing, but they're kind of advancements of each other. These are winter activities. So you go in the Winter Adventure, which is basically based out of their base camp. You go ice fishing, and you actually have a day where you do, to get on the dog sleds and things like that. Musher Camp is for if you're the first few times you might go. So you're learning how to do that. And then the dog sled one is, okay, yeah, we've been there a few times. We know how this works, and we're ready to go on longer adventures and farther away and things like that. Both of them operate, at least the Musher Camp and the dog sled, they operate out of the Ely base in particular. So you're staying in a cabin every night. Or you can do it remote, which is where you're actually going out and taking the dogs out, and you're actually going out and you're camping. So haven't ever been on one of these because they're in the wintertime. But they look like they would be a good time. So if you're interested in that and your troop can or group or your unit can swing that's just awesome. So moving on, Sea Base. So Sea Base has several hubs. Their biggest one is in Melandra. I can barely pronounce it. The Keys, in the Florida Keys, they have actually 2 bases in Florida Keys. They actually have a base, if you want to call it that, in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's basically they just have where they dock the boats they use in that, and then there is one in the Bahamas as well. Again, so it's quite international if you want to do so. At the Florida Sea Base, this is the big one. This is the one that started in the 1970s. So they have all these adventures. There's all kinds of scuba adventures, coral reef sailing, which is probably one of the most common, most popular. Basically, you go out on a sailboat for a week, or Monday through Friday, and you sail and scuba dive, not scuba dive, but snorkel and things like that. Reef Trek is similar to that, except you're staying on base the entire time and you're going out for these adventures. Sea Exploring is it's a big boat. It's an 18 to 20 person sailboat. And then the Keys Adventure, the Keys Adventure is more like a variety of activities. So you go out sailing for an overnight, and you might go kayaking and things like that. And then eco sailing is kind of a mix of the two, except they use a STEM program that goes on when you're doing it. So you're not just sailing and having do your snorkeling. You're actually doing STEM activities and things like that. The other Florida Keys base that they have is the Britain Environmental Center, which is down south. It's actually, well, it's not quite all the way to whatever the last, sorry, I'm blanking on the name of Lasky. They have fewer adventures, but they're quite more adventuresome in a lot of ways. So they have the Out Island Adventure, which is basically where you take these canoes, large canoes, and you canoe out to Munson Island and you stay there basically for the week, for the Monday through Friday. And it's a camping experience. There's a day where you go out on a fishing trip, and various things that you do while you're on the island. But the key part of it is you're going out to the island and you're staying there for 5 days. It's quite an experience. The Keys Adventure is, again, where you're staying at Britain, and you go out for a day of fishing, and you go out for a day of sailing, and that type of thing. And you actually take the canoes out, and you go out and things like that. So it's kind of, you're staying at the base camp, and you're going out and doing things in various activities. And then they have a fishing adventure, which is that's the only place that they actually have that, where you spend several days intermittently on one of their boats doing fishing. When you're at the Out Island Adventure, you actually have a fishing day, so you go out for a day, but the fishing adventure is several days of fishing. And this is my little key deer, which is kind of interesting. These are about the size of a dog, a very small dog. It's kind of they're adapted to living on the Florida Keys. So outside of the U.S., I mean, not technically, St. Thomas is still a U.S. territory, but there's the Bahamas and the St. Thomas. They used to have St. Croix, but they have stopped actually doing. Currently, they've stopped doing adventures from there because it wasn't they didn't have the facility, as good a facility. So in the Bahamas, you can do. These are all sailing trips, so 6 to 8 persons. So it's a smaller boat. Then you could do a larger boat, which is usually a catamaran, 10 to 12 person crew. So it's out, you're going around for a week and sailing. And then there's a tall ship. So it's the 18 to 20, and it's a big boat that you go out on for the week. St. Thomas, it's kind of the same, 6 to 8 person or 10 to 12 person. Thing I like about St. Thomas, we actually sent a crew there a few years ago, or my troop did. And they went to St. Thomas because, like I say, if you want to sail, you go to St. Thomas because that's where the trade winds are, and they had an awesome time and did a lot of sailing. So we sent 2 crews there. So that's what Sea Base has to offer. That's 3 out of the 4. The last one, which is also the newest, which is Summit Bechtel Reserve. It's in West Virginia, kind of actually in the middle of the state, more or less. So there is a variety of activities you can do at Summit. Probably the most popular. I have the slide here has a lot of pictures on it, so that's why it's taking a while to pull up here. Is what they call the Summit experience. So think of Summit Bechtel is like every high adventure activity that you might do 1 or 2 of at a regular summer camp. They have all of them here. It's hundreds of acres that were donated by the Bechtel family and turned into a summer camp. It's where the national jamborees are. It's where the World Jamboree was last time it was here, a few years after the summit opened. So they have all kinds of program areas, and there was millions of dollars that were put into these program areas. And so the various adventures you can go there are Summit Experience, which is a smorgasbord. It's a little bit of everything. You spend a half day at almost all their sites. So this is skateboarding. They also do BMX riding. This is part of the archery range, the mountain biking, and they have the rifle and shotgun ranges that you go to. They have a day where you spend at they have some of the, I believe it's the largest outdoor artificial wall in the country. They have a lot of space for that. And then they also, part of the half of that day is spent at the rappel tower, so you can do that type of thing, rappel, and they call it the I can't remember, the leap of faith, where you basically get harnessed up and you run off of the tower and let the, basically run out into nothing, let the safety catch you. So it's a kind of quite an experience. And then they also, if they're running it, they've had to actually fixed it. Is they have a canopy tour. They also have one of the longest, whatever, not the canopy tour ones, but geez, I'm losing my words. Sorry. Zip line, largest zip line. They have one of the largest zip lines in the U.S. and usually you get to do that as part of that. As part of the summer experience, you also spend a half day in a whitewater rafting trip and then a service project, so you could help them out and things like that. So it's, and I guess so. The other thing I'll say, we'll talk about age in a minute, but this one you can actually attend at, the youth can attend at 13. They only have to be 13. So in addition to the summit experience, which is you're on the installation the entire time. You're eating in a mess hall for breakfast and dinner, and you're getting a box lunch. They have these adventures, which are where they go out. So they have the New River experience. So this is the New River Bridge, New River Gorge, which is kind of funny. They call it New River because it's like the first or second oldest river in the United States. So it's one of the only ones that flows north, I guess. So anyway, they have a whitewater rafting experience. So in addition, in summit experience, you get a half day at that. You just a few hours in the whitewater rafting. They actually do it a multi-day trip down the New River. And they also have one where it's a pack and paddle. So you do a few days of a whitewater rafting trip where it's, we're actually camping on the side of the river and things like that. And then you actually do a backpacking trip in addition to that. So it's, I think it's it's like 3 days of each. So you do combined trip like that where you're not actually on the installation. Then they have the ATV trek, the Polaris trek, which is several days. I think it's 3 or 4 days of, you're basically taking the ATVs out and you're camping in there and such. So, and this is also generally off installation. They'll start there but they go out into the area around it. So kind of some of those things that you don't get to do very much. I mean, this is, as far as I know, this is the only place within the scouting system that you can actually go whitewater rafting. Without, because we cannot run whitewater rafting trips, but they can. So then there are the one concentration area they have is the marksman. So that you spend, instead of going all those activities, the mountain biking and the rock climbing and all that type of stuff, they concentrate 3 days at the ranges. So you get more time at the ranges. They actually bring out some different weaponry and things like that, especially like on the rifle range and such. And you get to spend more time and doing that. So that's another trek. So, but this is basically similar to, in a way, it's you're not staying on the installation proper because the ranges are actually quite a ways away from that. So you're generally camping at the ranges, and you spend a lot more time there. But you're getting the same, hot meals and things like that they bring out to you. So that's an overview of the 4 national high adventure bases. And then we'll go into some, and I can't see the chat. So if anybody has any questions, I'll get to the questions at the end. So, but I just want to make sure that if I'm going too quick or everything like that, try to slow me down and let me know.
You're doing fantastic, bud. Thank you so much.
All right. So next thing we'll talk about is the participation requirements. So this, so like any, not like any scouting events, I'll go over the miscellaneous first. Obviously, everyone that goes has to be a registered scouter. So if you get a parent that goes and doesn't regularly participate, they have to become, a registered scouter before they can go with their youth. I found this is most common at Sea Base and Summit, because you get more of the parents who are willing and wanting to go to those adventures. You have to have 2 adults minimum though, and the co-ed groups. We'll talk about that at the last part of this slide, because there's complication about that. So the age requirements, vast majority of the treks, you have to be 14. The youth has to be 14 before they go. Now, there are some where they backed it up to 13 and graduated the 8th grade, but like Philmont, for instance, you have to be 14. That's the minimum age to go. So it's obviously the only somewhat older scouts. And that's obviously because it is high adventure. I mean, you're doing activities that are, might be difficult for an 11-year-old to do. So as I said before, there are some where there's a minimum of 13. So the Summit experience is one of them. That's the adventure you can do at Summit Bechtel. That actually you'd be 13, and then also the Coralie sailing, for instance. That one, because you're basically spending a week on a boat, you can also be 13 for that one. And that's 13 by the time you go. Don't have to graduate 8th grade or any of that. You can be just starting those. So we'll talk about co-ed groups, because it can be it's getting more complicated, I guess, with the scouting world here. If you're a venture crew or something that's co-ed, or up and coming, when they have family troops and things like that, you can go as long as you have one adult female and another adult from the troop. We actually have looked into, and we tried to put together, if you have 2 different groups, say you don't have enough people, or you want to go on one of those big sailing boats or something like that, and you have to try to pull in another troop or another unit. The easiest way I have found, because if you have to do that, that means you have to have 2 leaders from each unit. And then if one of them is co-ed or girls, you actually have to have one of them has to be a female adult leader. And so the easiest way we found to do it is, if you're going to do something like that, is you bring those people into a dual registration or something like that within one unit, so that if you can't quite muster that you have 4 adults, because if you have only 8 people on the boat and you have to 4 of them have to be adults, it kind of reduces the number of youth that you can actually bring on. So that's the co-ed piece of it. So next thing we're going to talk about is registration overview. So the biggest thing about this is, 3 out of the 4, so everything but Philmont, has an open registration. Now the dates vary by a little bit. Usually they're a day or 2 apart. So you have, and what I mean by open registration is basically it's first come, first serve. At 9 a.m. on the day that they open, which is usually around January 15th, the day that they open, 9 a.m. at Eastern time, they open the computer system. And if you get in there, they get the trek you want and the time you want, you have to take your chances and get in there. Obviously, some of the treks are more popular than others, and they go quicker. I can tell you that every time I had to do an open registration, I was on at 6 a.m. in the morning. And for like Florida, when we went this last time we went to Florida, by the time I could actually get to a registration for a coral reef sailing, they were already booked. They had already booked the first month of their operation. So that was, my connection couldn't get in quick enough to actually do that. And that was like, as soon as 6 a.m. went on, I, hit the registration key and then tried to get the dates we wanted, and had to keep on going out to get the dates we wanted. So the more popular trips can be very crowded. So there are some strategies, and if you really want to know about some of those, I can help you out with that, but it behooves you to be on that computer at 6 a.m. in the morning trying to get a trek if you want something at an opportune time. So Philmont's the exception, because again they tend to put tens of thousands of people at one time. Before COVID, they were over 20,000 participants were going through Philmont in one summer. In order to do that, you basically have to, what you do is you do a registration. So you input and pay a fee before, basically you input your information between October 1st and October 15th, and you pick like 3 dates that you want. Say, I want this date and I want this length of trek. And then they prioritize you, and you get picked, and then you hopefully get one the date that you want. And this is actually works out pretty well, because most of the time, especially if you pick the longer treks, like the 12-day treks, we have the times our unit has gone, we've always gotten our first choice as far as date and trek, because not everybody wants the longer treks. So, and then they do go through another lottery system where once you've got your date and your trek, and then you put down your deposit saying, yep, we're going to go and we're going to send a crew. Then there's a system where it's basically they give you the dates, but it's you basically fill out you list your top 6 treks. These are the top 6 that we want to do, and then it goes into a lottery system, and then you figure out which trek you want to actually go on. They give you the trek that you want to go on, the dates that you have already signed, if that makes sense. So basically, you pick your date and your duration. That's the first part of it. That's the kind of quick, get in there and hopefully get the one you want and date you want, and then you get and then it goes through the process of the lottery. And again, depending on what you choose, again, the treks that we've had, we've always gotten that first choice as far as the trek, which is awesome. But it's a 12-day trek, and we also pick ones. We don't always pick ones that are sometimes they're a little more easy. They have basically 4 classifications of treks that you can go on. I don't know exactly the names, but they're increasing in duration and difficulty. So the first 2, which is the ones you're hiking at 60 miles or so. If you go to the next, the second one up, so that's usually you have more dry camps, which is where you're outside of a staff camp. You're miles often away from a creek or something like that you can treat for water and things like that. By the time you're getting into those top 2 rankings for difficulty, the 4th one, I know that they're approaching 100 miles in almost every trek. So if you're not willing to do 100 miles in 12 days, that make sure that that's not one you pick. So generally how we've done it is to do a matrix and just have the scouts activities that they like. We rank them, and then we try to pick prioritize the treks that actually give those activities, pick those activities. So that's kind of like I say, Philmont's the one out there. There are types of treks, so you can go as a crew treks, which I mean that's either a troop, a venture crew, or I guess that's the main 2 types of units that we can, or I guess you could go explorers, but I don't know if that's anyway. So this is a unit trek, essentially. You go as a unit, and that's where you have to hit the minimums, and you have to put number of minimum people, ranges anywhere from 6 to 8. Essentially, Philmont is 8. 8 minimum, 12 maximum, generally on their unit treks. There are the options where you can go Order of the Arrow, and this is actually quite a good one, because you can go as an individual, or you can go as a small group. All members have to be Order of the Arrow, however. And what you do is it's a reduced cost, because you usually go there for a week, and you help them do service projects. So at Northern Tier, you might do their trail work and their portage routes and things like that. At Philmont, you help them with trail work and things like that. So you work your service, and then you go on a trek for a week. So I've known we've had scouts that have been on those, and they have thoroughly enjoyed doing that. But again, so and the nice thing about it is it's a reduced cost, because the scouts are working for the camp in some capacity. And there is individual and small group. Not all of them have this, but actually most of them do. Sea base is, depending on the trek, is the one it's more difficult, because they're really geared towards having a whole unit, a cohesive unit go. So what I mean by this is that 1, 2, 3 people. In fact, our unit just sent 3 to Philmont, and basically you can go in there, and there's a place on the website. You can say, you're either looking for a few more people. So or you're trying to find a group. So Philmont is very good about that because they understand it. So it's you pay for the trek, you don't pay per person. You know, Summit and Summit I think is one, and Seabase, Summit especially, you pay per person. So if your group in size increases, then it doesn't really matter. Philmont, however, you're paying for the trek. And so if you have 8 people go, the very bare minimum, they're paying more than if you have 12 people go. So if you have 9 that you can muster from your unit and say, hey, you know, put out the word, you might get 3 people from another unit that, you know, you can accept onto your crew so that it reduces the cost of the actual trek. But it's also that way if you can't put together a minimum 8 people, you don't have 8 people from your unit, then you can actually go on into their system and you can do that. You can actually put together a group. This, I know that, like I say, Philmont does that, and Summit is, I mean, I've done it where it's a father-son type thing, or, you know, a mother-daughter, you know, could go attached to another unit, and especially do like Summit experience and things like that. So there are options for that if you can't, you know, get the minimum for your unit going. And last on the administrative side is budgetary costs. So the last ones that we have done, we have run them all in somewhere between that $2,100, $2,400. That's airfare flying there, a stay on one side or the other. And we'll get to that discussion in a minute. But this is also based on the longest treks, because a 12-day trek at Philmont costs, you know, more than a 7-day, for instance. So same with all of them usually. So, and I say this is pretty good budget, but you have to. This is one where if you're doing the airfare, you have to get in there usually December, January timeframe, and you know, try to get to, you know, several months out for your airfare and things like that. Oh, that reminds me, one thing back on our registration overview site or ticket. We'll go back to that slide for a minute, because this is kind of an important thing I don't want to miss, is that this open registration is the January, the year before you go. So this January 2027, will be for treks in 2028. Philmont, this October, is 2 years ahead of time. So this October 26, you're going to be putting in for summer of 2028 treks. It just, you have to, this is one of those things you have to get your crew together way ahead of time. You have to start planning way ahead of time. Just want to make sure that I forgot to emphasize that on that screen. So things to consider is how you're going to get there. All of these generally we have flown. I mean, if you're going to the U.S. Virgin Islands or the Bahamas, you're flying. There's no other way. But I have had discussed crew, you know, with people, other units who have made a road trip or taken the train or done something like that, especially to Philmont. They have very good facility for that. Minnesota is a little more difficult than that, because Ely is kind of in the middle of nowhere. And then Summit, not always as common. You can get bus service out there, but like I say, Philmont's the one where people do more of that. So you can do it as a road trip and just you know, take your cars and drive. Take several days, but most of the time we have flown. Especially if you fly, you're definitely. I've never done it where it didn't have a day or before or after. So most of them only allow you to do 1 day. If you want to stay at camp, often they'll offer a deal where they'll put you into your tents or your accommodations a day ahead of time, and it's like $10 a person or something like that for meals. It's actually a pretty good deal, but they only allow you to stay 1 day ahead of time or 1 day after. And so what we've commonly done is to take a red eye or a very early morning flight, and then the day before our trek started, and then stay there because you've got the time difference. Generally, like Florida's, 3 hours time difference. Virginia's 2, and Minnesota's 2. So we fly out there and stay usually in the facilities, because most of them have either a partnership with facilities like Seabase, or they have you can stay on the post itself. And then when you're doing sightseeing, One of the treks that we did to Summit, we actually flew into and out of Washington, D.C., and we spent several extra days in Washington, D.C., touring with the Scouts. It was a great time. Obviously, it's extra money, but they thoroughly enjoyed it. So you can have to consider that. So that's kind of the broad overview. If there can be a lot of questions about this, a lot more in depth about any of these areas. Please let me know. We can get to the end, or I'll have my email up at the end, and you can email me, and I can try to answer the question if I don't kind of know, or if you think of something after the fact. But the last thing I did want to talk about is the High Adventure Awards. These are kind of not underutilized, but not as commonly awarded. There are two of them, so they're for youth or adult, and it doesn't matter whether you attend. So we'll go right into it. So the Triple Crown is the first one. That's any three. So it's what I mean by youth or adult. If you go two of them as a youth, and then you go the third one after you're 18, that still counts as a Triple Crown. And then you go to the fourth one, as a young adult in your unit, that counts. That's actually how my older son did his Grand Slam. As he attended. Because of COVID, we couldn't go that summer, and we couldn't go to Philmont that summer, so he attended after he turned 18, and then he still earned the Grand Slam. So you can only earn once. You can earn the Triple Crown once, and you can earn the Grand Slam once. So there are some crazy people, sort of like me, that have been to several of them twice, and I only got the one award, which is fine. I mean, it's fine me. So Triple Crown is any three. It's customized patch too. So like this one shows a bull, a dolphin, and a loon. Can we guess which one those are? Right. The loon is Northern Tier, the dolphin is Sea Base, and the bull is Philmont. So if you had went to Summit instead, it would replace one of these animals. So it's a customized patch based on which three you attended. Or you attended first, I guess, when you get the award. The Grand Slam is for all four of them. So, and these awards cost, I think they're, around $25 a piece or something like that. It comes with a really fancy certificate and things like that. So it's really kind of a great thing. And I like these because when they're issued at our courts of honor, it can really drive interest in your troop, saying, hey, this is something you can earn, and this is something that we did and we do we try to do every year. So it can really drive interest, and it's a low cost at doing so. So, and then we are ended with the questions. So I will leave this up because my email is down here. If you have questions afterwards, but if I will mute myself here, and if anyone has any questions, they can either come online or Justin, Mariah, we can go however we need to. So
Very cool.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. We can let MarkDaniel do the commissioner minute, and if anybody has any questions, they can shoot them in the chat while we're doing that. If MarkDaniel's here.
I am here. All righty. So for the commissioner minute, I want to go into kind of what Mark was talking about, and try something different. Have you ever had the experience of trying harder and harder to accomplish a goal without success? It is good to try harder, but it is also very important that we also remember to try smarter, because trying harder doesn't always work. How many of you have ever seen a housefly try to fly through a closed window? It makes the desperate sound of a life or death struggle, using all its energy in an attempt to fly through a glass window pane. The fly hits the glass and falls to the ledge. Then the fly backs up and tries again. The harder it tries, the more difficult it becomes. The insect has bet its life on being able to fly through the glass. This fly is doomed. It will die because it is locked into an approach that cannot be successful. Across the room from this fly, just a few feet away, a door is open. If the fly just took 10 seconds of flying time to look for another way out of the room, it would quickly find the open door. With only a fraction of the effort now being wasted, it could be free of this self-imposed trap. The breakthrough possibility is there. Why doesn't the fly try another approach? Something dramatically different. How did it get so locked into the idea that this particular route is the best and the only way out? What logic is there in continuing over and again an approach that it is not working? No doubt this approach makes sense to the fly, but regrettably, it's an approach that will result in failure. Flying harder isn't the solution in this case. In fact, being locked into the idea of trying harder and harder is a big part of this fly's problem. Don't let yourself get locked into one approach to accomplishing a goal. The next time you are faced with a frustrating problem in scouting, in school, or in a job, stop for a minute and think about that fly. Maybe if you took a different approach, you too might find that open door. And the reason I bring this up today is because we're talking about high adventure and all the different opportunities we have in scouting now, right? We are really working on membership, growing the membership in Olympic District and Pacific Harbor Council. And what Mark has talked about is there's a lot of different opportunities that we can do as at the scout troop can go to all of these high adventure activities. Also, Sea Scouts and like Mark said, explorer posts and crews. Now, with that, we should also be enticing these Cub Scouts and showing them what they are doing and what these scouts get to do as they get older and as we grow the program. Because these adventures, I have 3 Cub Scouts right now, and if I tell them when they're 14, they get to go and climb a huge rock out in West Virginia, they're gonna, you'll see the smile on their face. Or tell my son that he gets to go sail in the Bahamas, they're gonna want to continue their scouting. They're not gonna say, oh, well, scouting isn't interesting for me anymore, or there isn't. No, we're trying to promote and bring this in. And so everything that Mark told me today, it made me want to jump on a plane and go to Philmont or go to Northern Tier, right? And so that's what we want to emphasize in these scouts and these parents. And so as scout leaders, this is what we should be sharing to these adults. Hey, these are great opportunities. These are skills that you will learn and your kids can use in the future as they build on and go to life. Like what Mark said with his son, he went to Philmont after he was 18, and that's something that most kids don't get to do, but scouting gives that opportunity to our youth, and that's something we need to share as leaders. And when we do recruitment events or when we're talking to units as commissioners, going out there and sharing that to these units and sharing the experiences Mark has with all these units. And hey, bringing up when we're doing our commissioner meetings or when we're doing our unit goals, hey, do you have a goal to maybe go into Philmont someday? So I appreciate everybody being here. I do want to say that one of my final things is our own Rainier's District Commissioner Bronwyn Kahn actually was the Order of the Year of VFW Scout of the Year for the VFW Department of Washington. So if you see her when she gets back from camp, because I know she couldn't attend, I'm going to give her certificate at the next one, but I wanted to make sure we made a recognition to her because so she knows in the future. I appreciate you guys coming, and I really appreciate the great job that Mariah, you are doing it as a with Roundtable, and Justin, you assisting her. Thank you guys very much. And thank you, Mark. Thank you for doing this for us.
No, yes. Thank you for the kind words. And yes, thanks again to Mark Bock for the phenomenal presentation. That was amazing. Thank you so much for that.
I think it was a great way to kick it off.
No, I mean, for
So
our inaugural like high adventure roundtable, I couldn't think of a better way to start it. That was awesome.
So I do have a slight story on what Mark was talking about too, is that so when my older son was a Cub Scout, I took him to a court of honor at our current troop, and it was the court of honor where they actually presented those high adventure awards. And he said, "That's what I want to do." And so it was like a 10-year-old saying, "That's what I want to do." And so that's where we ended up, and that's what he did. So I mean that was part of the reason why he stayed into scouting, just like you were saying. It was pretty amazing. It says, so if that's what you want to do, then we'll try to support that. So yeah.
That sounds like a heck of a intentional transition. Boom.
Thank you.
All right. So again, thank you, Mark. We can also share out your contact info if people weren't able to snag it really quick off of your PowerPoint. Again, any questions, last minute comments, questions before we call it a night?
Just a reminder while you're thinking, our next High Adventure Roundtable is going to be September 28th. Again, it's all going to be on Zoom. Matt McQuilton will be presenting how to plan a 50-mile backpacking trip. And then our regular roundtable will be August 19th with a conversation about budgeting.
Money, 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 money. Okay.
That will be hybrid, so you can come to Thunderbird for that one.
Yay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for attending our first High Adventure Roundtable. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep. Have a good evening, everybody. Be safe getting home.
Thank you.